So originally we had to name our breakouts, and so I was like, I'm going to call it Balancing Family and Ministry, but really I don't know that that's possible to balance, because that would make things seem equal. So I really think mixing is probably a better title, or what I'd like to talk about. And so I think a lot of times when people think about family and ministry, you can think about two separate things that are competing with each other and that are competing for your time. And so I hope that after we share tonight that you can maybe see how these are blended and that they don't have to compete with each other and that they're not two separate things. I wanted to read from 1 Timothy chapter 3. This is verses 1 through 5. The saying is trustworthy. If anyone aspires to the office of overseer, he desires a noble task. Therefore, an overseer must be above reproach, the husband of one wife, sober-minded, self-controlled, respectable, hospitable, able to teach, not a drunkard, not violent but gentle, not quarrelsome, not a lover of money. He must manage his own household well with all dignity, keeping his children submissive. For if someone does not know how to manage his own household, how will he care for God's church? And so to me, when you hear that, I know that can probably step on toes, because as a parent, or at least this is true for me, I think my kids' actions, I feel like it's a reflection of my parenting. And so I take it very personally if my kids, if their sin is on display, I feel like I failed as a parent. I don't know if that's true for any of y'all. And so I don't want you to hear that as that you have to have perfect kids, or that your kids are a reflection of your parenting. I want you to hear in that God is saying your family is a priority. And so I hope that you guys know that. Carl has made that obvious from working for him, and hopefully you guys feel that from leading with us, is that your family should be the priority. And so when you look at God's design for family and ministry, I just want to encourage you guys that it is God first, right? And so I think your relationship with God has to be the priority. And then you read about husbands and wives submitting to one another. And so then I look at, okay, well, if it's God, and then it's my spouse, and then it's my children. And so I'm sitting here telling you, we suck at that a lot, in that we get that out of order a lot. A lot of times it's our kids first. And so I don't want you guys to think that we're sitting here saying that we have this together. We don't. I would say this last year of ministry has probably been the toughest for us as far as parenting, having kids in the ministry. And so really I just wanted to share a few things with you guys, and then hear from you guys about your struggles and see how we could be united together in ministry. So I think one of the big things that I have figured out is that healthy family, healthy household leads to healthy ministry. So if you're having conflict in your house, if John and I are at odds with each other, there are ripple effects in our house. Our kids can feel it. And so then, of course, if you're trying to lead other people, that's also going to cause some problems. And so just encouraging you guys to really invest in your own faith and invest in your spouse, because that's going to help just create this healthy environment that helps you to be able to pour into your children, your personal children, and then the extension of all these kids that we have in our small groups. And I think we see that order in Scripture to love God first, and then before you can have the children, you've got to have a spouse, and so then you've got to take care of them, and then you've got to take care of your personal children, and then you've got all these extra kids that become your children. And so really, for those of you that are married, managing your marriage is huge. And listening, you can read it right here on the wall, the mission statement of, we're a growing family, awakening to God and living on mission. And so family is huge in this. And so the hard part comes in of, well, how do you balance all this? And so I know there are times, for those of you who have kids in the ministry, that you may feel like you're neglecting your kids and these other kids are a priority. And then there are probably other times, through a mission night out there, for example, your kid may be playing in a baseball game or something, and you're saying, well, I don't want to miss my kid's stuff to go watch these other kids or go do something, and they probably won't even show up, right? And so it's this, how do you balance all of this? And so I think if you're serving, I don't have an answer, I wish I did tell you, but I think if you look at where you're investing your time and you're communicating with your personal children, that's an important tool of just saying, what's important to you? Because I don't know if your personal children communicate with y'all very well, but one of our kids doesn't really care if I'm at their sporting events. The other one would take it very personally, but would never say anything about it. And so I think just having conversations of, do you want me there? Do you care? What's the priority in that? And hearing from your children is important. But also sitting down and talking with the kids in your small group about, hey, I have this family and my kid has a game, or this is important that I go to this. Communicating with everybody in that. One of the things that John and I, we both lead senior groups, and so like Super Bowl coming up, where they're asking us to open our home, right? So it's, well, we've got to talk about, are you hosting it? Am I hosting it? Are we doing this together? And so just communicating through all of those pieces are very important. And then the real meat of what I wanted to talk about is we have really struggled in the past year. So we have Emily and Brooks that are in the ministry. And so we have struggled of our kids being in the ministry, us serving in the ministry, and figuring out boundaries, healthy boundaries with our kids, healthy boundaries as being small group leaders. And so I wanted to share a little bit of our experience with you guys. And so Emily's a senior and Brooks is a 10th grader. And so we had just struggled with our kids coming and talking to us about things that they're struggling with in their peer group. And these are kids, right? Some of these are your kids, right? Because you're kids. We're all in this together. And so it was this burden of, what do we do with this information? What do I share with John about kids in his small group that I know are getting into trouble? What does he share with me about kids coming to him with struggles? Because we want to have this level of confidence with our students where they trust us and come to us. And so
I think it was particularly complicated because Emily was a 12th grader and we both had 12th grade groups, so it's, I think even the kids are cautious because they know, the connection. So
yeah. And so we really, oh man, it was a rough time. And so one of the things that we had to talk about, and where I say mixing the family and ministry, is we had to say, okay, what is our priority in this? Is our priority his group of boys, my group of girls, or is our priority our children? Is our priority my friend that I'm serving in ministry with, or his friend that he's serving in ministry with? What is it? And so we ended up sitting down with Emily and Brooks. It was really Emily struggling mostly, but we sat down and we said, you are our priority. And so if you come to us and you tell us anything, it stays with us. I don't care if it is one of your kids, if it's my best friend's kid, whatever, you have our confidence. We will not betray your trust. And so it was tested. She would tell us, and we kept it under lock and key, and so we built trust in that. And so it really opened the door for her to trust us. And so the difficult part is whenever it's something that, parents are calling, hey, and we get phone calls all the time. Do you know what my kid's up to? Do you know this? Or what do you know? And it's like, well, what do we do? Because they're going to know if I say something that, oh, it came from my kid. And so my blanket statement now is, you're going to have to talk to your kid about it. If you want to know, talk to your kid. And so I just want to tell you, the thing that we have learned, and I don't know if it works for you and your kids, your personal children, is make your personal children your priority. Whenever it comes to, hey, I've got this student, even if it's a student in your small group that's maybe struggling with something that your own child has told you, you've really got to keep their confidence in that. And so it's been good for us with Emily, but it has caused lots of heartache for our personal friendships. And so I don't say that like lighthearted. I mean, we have really struggled through boundaries with friends of, we don't really know how to do this. And so the thing I would tell you, if you guys are, any of you are struggling in that, is if you can find you a mentor or somebody that is not involved in this particular ministry, to say, hey, this is what I'm having a hard time with. Because when you're in this together, you can have blinders on, and it becomes very emotional. And so if you have somebody that's removed from it and can really see, hey, here's what you need to do, and this is what I think you should do. And Chris Knox has been that for me. She knows a lot of the kids, but she's removed enough where she can just say, here's what you need. And it's biblically sound direction that she's giving. And so I know that John has had an example in his small group where there was a student that came to him and revealed something, and then probably like 2 months later, somebody said, oh, did you know about that? I was like, no. They said, well, we told John. And so I was like, hey, you didn't tell me that. Like, how did you not tell me this? And so really that became our conversation of, yeah, these kids, these boys are trusting him. And so we decided, yeah, there are some things that I just don't need to know about. And that's great. And there are things that he doesn't need to know about, even if I know things about his group, and we'll talk through that. It depends on the case, but just, hey, this might be going on with this kid. And so we kind of talk back and forth on that. But I will say there's things that he does not share with me about his small group that I don't need to know. And some of y'all have kids in there, you're probably thrilled. But yeah, so it's just been a struggle for us of mixing through that.
Particularly when you have parents of kids, I keep pointing at Joel, not because I have stories on your kids.
Or Stacy and
You just help me with my example.
I can tell you things that you can't tell me. This comes from charity, because I used to not know that way.
Yeah, but if I know, and I'm friends with you, and I know your kid is struggling with something, I want to tell you to help you, but you might not to.
Hang on that, John.
Yeah. Fix it all.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
Yes. I struggle with this with my 9th grader. About, because I have some of his friends now in my group that have been there a long time. But Jack was like, Mom, you just don't even need to talk about us. John never says anything about Emily. He just never even say your kid's name. And I'm like, okay, that's probably a good point.
Well, and that is true. That's another thing is I am very open book about my kids, and John is more guarded, and so they probably appreciate that about him a lot more. But it is a struggle, and I'm telling y'all, I really think the enemy can work to divide in that, because you think, but I need to go tell these parents because their kid is in danger. And most of the times, they're in danger if they get in a car and drive out of the parking lot. Let's be real. But it's just something that I think females struggle with. Sorry, that's a very sexist comment, but I'm just saying, I'm trying to be honest about it. I think we struggle with it more of, I need to tell their mom what's going on because I want to fix everything for my kids. Like if I know, even for your kids, if I know they're struggling, let me just see what I can, fix for them. And so we've had to really figure out new boundaries and all of that. And even things like just there are days that you come home from small group, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And so I think if you're serving with your spouse or just really trying to encourage the other one is important in that, because it's really easy to jump on that wagon and downward spiral together. So if you can, build each other up in that is important. And I don't know about y'all, but with our kids going all these different directions, we've got Brooks going to Daniel's house, we've got Emily going to Rachel and Sarah's, and we've got 2 other kids, and it's a struggle of getting kids places. I don't know if that's any of y'all that have multiple groups, and then you're trying to lead your group, right? So like Super Bowl night, we'll have 4 locations for our family. And so it's, well, what are we doing? What's the priority? And so if you can figure that out, working together, carpool, which the Bonds have been great of taking Brooks, and but just any of those little things that you can do, or combining and having parties together is really helpful for us. Talking about this balance, and I do feel like there are times that my small group might get more time than my kids, or ministry. I'm trying to, it might be V2s, or it might be an event that you guys go to, and you're thinking, I'm leaving my children and I'm going and I'm investing all of this time here, and you can feel the guilt of what you've left at home, or that, hey, my kids are over there and I'm investing in these other kids. I just encourage you to be 100% present wherever you are. There's not this balance. Your heart can't be in 2 places. It's going to be divided. And so be all in. When you're with your family, be all in. When you're here, be all in. Which is difficult when your kid is texting you in the middle of your mixing family ministry. But just try to be where you are. John's favorite saying that he says to our kids all the time.
Be where your feet are.
Yeah. And so that's just a little tidbit. But one of the things that we have found helpful is trying to, when we're saying mix family and ministry, if you have kids that are in dance, we don't, but we went to watch the Nutcracker, right? And so I took one of our kids, well, 2 of our kids, 2 different times to go see the Nutcracker. Make sure you tell Beth. And so talk about, I took my kids, we saw all these girls that were in the ministry, and it was like, man, we nailed it. We blended this nicely. Or sporting events, if you're at Palmer, and you walk by and you see one of the kids, in the group, and it doesn't have to be your group. If it is, bonus. But just going out of your way to say hi to them and letting them know that you were there is important. And then different things like if you have kids in your house, don't feel like you've got to kick them out if you're having your small group over. We have found that the kids really love if Sam and Eli are in the mix of it. It's a lot louder, but I have a picture of John's small group with the boys dogpiling in the basement, and they love it. I think it just makes them, when you can do family and ministry together, it just makes it so much more authentic for these kids. They don't feel like you're living 2 separate lives. So just any opportunities that you can have to mix the 2. If we go on mission night, bring your kids. One of the things, back to school retreat, which I cried, I'm a big crier, but it's just, I'm not going to cry tonight, but it was just like this dream of mine come true. So I'm standing at the back of the worship space, and there are the Parsleys, and they've got Ethan, and they ran into this where their sitter couldn't keep Ethan right before back to school retreat. And so we're like, hey, Carl, what if we got them a room and they could bring Ethan? I don't know if y'all know the Parsleys and Ethan and all that. Ethan is their son that they adopted from China who has Down syndrome. And so, like, man, that would be awesome. So we were able to get them a room. And then Rachel got to bring the girls because they had just gotten them. And it was, hey, so here is not only that we have different races, which is like my heart melting, but I'm standing back there crying thinking, this is what ministry should look like, where, hey, it didn't work. Somebody was going to have to miss out. So we were able to, hey, bring your kids and we can make this work. And holy cow, they loved it. All the students, I mean, Ethan doing the lip sync thing was awesome. That was one of my favorite moments. And so, just any opportunity that you can mix your family in. Don't feel like it has to be two separate things. Whether it's game night. Chris, I think y'all just did a game night.
We did.
Your group. Blend as you see fit. Now, some of you may be like, I got to get away from my personal children. These teenagers are easier. But yeah, however you can do that. So, wanted to hear from you guys. See our time, we're almost out. But kind of what you guys are struggling with, and if anybody has wisdom to impart to each other, or questions that you might have for us.
So I have a thought. I've kind of struggled with the same thing because, my kids are an active part of the ministry, and I used to be in 5 Points, and now I'm kind of across the street, and I kind of struggled with that. And the way I kind of came to terms with it is two things. One, my kids are part of my ministry, okay, at home, just not on Sunday nights. And the second part is I want to role model what ministry looks like to them. I want them to know what that looks like. If it means that I need to be across the street and be with this other group of boys and kind of pour in their lives, I want them to know that's part of being in ministry. I'm still dad at home, and I still pour in their lives at home. It's just on Sunday nights, another part, selected other nights of the week I'm somewhere else. And that's okay. I mean, I kind of struggled with that, but I came to terms with that's. I think for them to see that is important.
I think that's an excellent point because, I agree you should make your children your priority, but showing your children that serving others is also a priority to you is a great way to be a parent, right? And a model for them. Yeah. So I think it's good that sometimes you make decisions like, I'm doing this other thing because it's a priority to me.
Yeah.
So how do you get them to understand? Because I told my girls when they go on church functions, I am a youth leader, I'm not mom. So if you have a problem, go to Crystal and Ashley. Don't come to me, go to them. And the same is true for my neighbor or whatever. I'm not your group leader, go to your group leader. But it still comes.
Yeah, I think it's probably because they're pretty close with you, and I'm looking at Shelley, but we sent our kids on a choir tour, and we were both getting phone calls and texts, and we're like, there are adults with you, but in their case, it was
In
a
all
little different.
fairness, they had pneumonia.
Yeah. Suck it up, kids. We'll call you in something. Yeah, I think it is this, they're so close to you at home, and so it's difficult for them to understand that. And so
But they do fine when I'm not there.
Right.
I mean, I know that they're absolutely good at them when I'm not there.
Yeah, so I think it's just redirecting and go talk to them, and we deal with it too. It's that comfort.
Too, right? You have to remember it's probably.
No, yes, he doesn't even see me.
If we pass.
I personally think it's good that, you kind of touched on Hank too. I don't do ministry with them on Sunday nights. My children. I'm like, I'm not here for you.
Other than money. We need
Well,
money to eat, and then we're done.
But,
Yeah.
Hank's point, I grew up in this ministry with my mom leading small group in this ministry. And I don't even think I fully realized it till last year. My mom and I got to serve together, but just realizing I know how to be a small group leader because I watched my mom be a small group leader. And so like, they are learning what ministry looks like and what serving looks like and what just being a Christian looks like. And so I think that's really important too.
And I know, Stacy, you said that the kids are the priority, and I think on that deep, knowing you've got their back, but it's also not always about them.
Right.
And so, I mean, so much of their universe is all about them, but I
Yeah,
think
I
on the
think
big
that's-
thing, like not missing the crucial ball game that's gonna break their hearts,
Right.
but just
Yeah.
making them eat leftovers because you're doing something is fine.
And the whole, to me, it's all about communicating to everybody involved of, hey, my personal children, hey, on Sunday nights, you figure it out, and then, or retreats or whatever, but just communicating, I'm doing this with my small group, or he's doing that with his small group, so, yeah, it's okay. When I say priority, they should come first when it comes to confidence and, well, I really think they should come first and, not every single time, but they should know, there should not be a question for your personal children of, hey, is their small group more important than me? So hopefully.
It's kind of same thing as when you love somebody, sometimes you tell them no, right? I mean, that's part of loving them. Sometimes it's, yeah, eat leftovers, suck it up.
Get a straw. That's our parenting go-to. Yeah, those good straws. Sorry. But anyway, any other questions or any struggles that y'all are having?
Well, I'm about to probably have a difficult one and this happened when our seniors were in ninth grade, and then it worked itself out, but it's starting to happen again with my ninth grader, and now I've got some of his friends in my group, and I'm about to have more of his friends in my group, and he does not like it. And so it's kind of, I have to be very careful what I say and how I say it. And I had an incident at the beginning of the year where it was just I was just trying to connect with a girl in our group, and they were talking about being in a math class, and I made the mistake of saying, well, my son said that y'all are the smartest people in your group, and, well, she went and told the group in front of the other people, well, I heard you said that you're the smartest person in the group, and he texted me immediately, was like, I can't believe you're saying this.
Yeah.
But it wasn't meant to be
Right.
like,
Yeah.
it was stupid in the way I phrased it, but I was just trying to connect with that child, because she's
Right.
very academic. So I have to just really, and when he found out that some new people would be joining, he was just like,
Yeah.
oh, don't embarrass me.
Yeah.
Don't know everything. And I'm like,
Well,
really?
that's kind of trickled to my family, because I have a ninth grade girl that's in her group who also, so it's, not only affected, I mean, I've got a very vocal ninth grader, she tells me things. So,
It does, it has ripple effects.
yeah, it does.
so I don't know how to.
And there's no way to avoid it completely, right? Because you're going to have friends or connections.
But you learned something from that, Brooke, and you have.
I did, but I feel like I have to be so guarded now. Like
Yeah.
there's a trust issue on my part. I mean, I'm like, and I didn't
Yeah.
mean it ugly, but I just was like, I have to be very careful of everything. And I think my son's perception of me, I'm like, no, I'm not like the mean boy mama when I'm with all these girls. He's like, well, you're just so, and I'm like, no, I'm actually a really good, nice, fun leader. Maybe not so much a nice, fun boy
Just
mama.
ask me, I will tell you.
Girls,
Yeah. Not breaking up fights, right? Yeah, it is, so it is difficult when we struggle whenever, it's like this double-edged sword of leading the same grade that your kids are in, because you know the kids, right? So you feel closer to them, but then if you say one thing that could be misunderstood, then it's like, that's not what I meant. That's not, and so it is, it's this, I think there's a lot of heartache in it, but I would like to say it's also been really good for us to be able to have real conversations with kids that, because we're leading that same grade, it's kind of opened that up for them to ask those questions or feel comfortable talking to us.
Well, I'm
That's
gonna
good, Matt.
communicate with them about like what you said, I'm gonna say, so tell me how you feel about this, and what is your anxiety over this, and what do you think I'm gonna be saying or doing?
Yeah. And the other thing is, I meant to say this earlier, whenever our kids are telling us something, I will even say, is this just like a lock and key? Is this going in the vault? Because a lot of things, it's just conversation, and sometimes I don't know. And when you're doing ministry with friends, and you might say something like, am I allowed to share this or not? But we've even set up boundaries with friends and with their children that if you tell me something, I do have permission to tell your parents. Like, I can't be, if you're in my small group, that's one thing. But if you're not in my small group, we've set those boundaries. I have communicated that. Just like, hey, I can't be your confidant, and that you can go to your small group leader or another adult. But we've had some struggles in that. So we're learning as we go. Anybody else have?
It's with most things, you really have to communicate, because it is tough, going back to your kid in the same grade or something, because you will find out more information than you want to know about all the other kids and stuff through various parties, so that makes it challenging at times, but it also affords you an opportunity to have conversations, if it's okay to share or talk about. So it's kind of good, but it's also frustrating because you learn stuff you don't want to learn.
And I'll end on this. One of the hardest things that if you're a parent and your kid is in the ministry is when somebody in the ministry hurts your kid, wounds them, and you see them and you want to punch them in the face. We have been there. And so I have been angry at children in this ministry, and I've had to learn to forgive without them knowing that I'm aware of what they've done or how they've hurt really our family. Because when you hurt your kid, you hurt the whole family, right? And so I hope none of you experience that, and if you have, you really are going to have to learn forgiveness on a whole nother level. God taught me that real fast, and so thankfully we're past that season, and but just don't feel like something's wrong with you if you're struggling with that, because we've been there. And happy to talk with y'all if any of you are struggling in that. I know a lot of you guys, your kids are in this, or your spouse is serving in this, and so I know it's a huge commitment for your family, and so we really appreciate the partnership and understand that it is a struggle to mix all of this. And so if you hear nothing else from tonight, just know that from really the top down of Asbury, your family is important. And so really invest in your family and pour into them, because that will allow you to be healthier to invest in other people's kids. I'd love to pray for us, and then I think it'll be probably time to switch. God, we just come before you not knowing how to do this, how to mix and balance our families and serving you. And so we just submit to you, and we ask for your guidance. We just come to you asking that you would give us wisdom and discernment to know when to speak, know when to listen, and God, to know how to communicate to our families and to the students that we serve. God, I pray that we would be examples of your love. And God, for those of us in the room that are just struggling with how to love our children and how to love their friends when we know of the wrongdoings that they're doing. God, would you remind us that we're all sinners and that a sin is a sin in your eyes. And so I just pray that we would have hearts of forgiveness, that we would have hearts that are like yours, God. Would you just refresh us and renew us and prepare us for this new semester with our families and with the students that you have entrusted to us. We thank you and we love you and we ask this all in Jesus' name. Amen.